everybody. Welcome back to the No Vacancy Podcast. Your intrepid host here, Glenn Hausman. As you can tell, I am recovered from being in Amsterdam last week. I don't know how I did it. Maybe having a chance to go away for a day. I had a great speaking gig down in Florida last week, which was this Monday. This week, I'm so discombobulated with where I am in the world. I have no idea what's going on, but I feel good. Be sure to check out my show from last week because I had so much fun in Amsterdam. So many amazing hospitality concepts I got to see, I got to experience, and I even got to stay at. I want to welcome you all back to the show, and we got a good one today. I'm really stoked, but before we get into it, I got to say this. This show is brought to you in part by Duetto, the revenue strategy technology platform that thousands of hotels are out there using to make money. Be sure to check out my recent interview with their CEO, Patrick Bosworth, all about what you need to know about revenue strategy, optimization, and all that good stuff. Go to getrevenueresults.com. That's getrevenueresults.com. I got a lot more plugs to do. I want to thank the Wall Covering Association for having me keynote this week at their event. And thanks to Service Department Summit Recharge Amsterdam, where I got to speak last week. And I got a great speaking gig coming up at the California Lodging Investment Conference on March 8th. Be sure to use the code NOVACANCY to register at cliconference.com. That's cliconference.com. All right. So let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Let's get the show on the road. It's been way too long. I got back my favorite Vegas podcaster, Five Hundy by Midnight's own, Tim Dressen. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. That's quite an introduction. You're far too kind.
Yeah, well, it's true. Let me tell you something, man. I really enjoy listening to your show every single week. And, you've been doing, we talked last time, must have been about a year ago you were on the show, how you got into the podcasting. I think it was 10 years at the time. So you were in it a few years before me, and it's always just so much fun knowing that, hey, there's this whole other way of communicating out there with people, and you've created such a fun and interesting community.
It's been really great. We actually just hit 13 years in January, early January. Yeah, 13. Amazingly, I haven't stuck with anything this long, really, my entire life. So it's quite amazing, and a lot of it really is the community that's formed around it, and the sharing of information on our Facebook group and through people calling our voicemail line. It's really a great group of people.
Yeah, it really sure is. Everybody is so engaged and involved in that. And I hope for all of you guys out there listening, make sure you like the No Vacancy podcast page. I'd like to have a little bit more community like you're doing, because it seems like every single day you must have dozens of people participating and throwing up stuff and talking with each other. And to me, it's really exciting.
Yeah, that's one of the great things about Las Vegas is there's always a lot to talk about, and we've got this community of people who are super obsessive, super nerdy about it, and follow everything closely. And whether it's a new development with a hotel or a resort or a restaurant or a casino or a show or whatever, there's always stuff to talk about. And even if there's not necessarily some burning news topic, although there are certainly plenty of them lately, people are going to Las Vegas and they're experiencing things, and they want to share that with the community. So they might be reviewing something they did, a room they stayed in, a show they went to. And then, of course, the discussion forms around that, people saying, yeah, I had a similar experience, or wow, I'm glad you had a better experience than I did. So it's really cool to see how that takes off.
Yeah, it really is amazing. And I love that team aspect that you've created. It's like one big, happy, since it's Vegas, we'll say drunken family, which is always a lot of fun.
It is often fueled by alcohol, but there's nothing wrong with that.
No, indeed. So I want to thank Tim here for putting up the podcast that we did. I was in Vegas earlier this month. Yeah, it was actually earlier this month in January. I got to speak to the SVP over at the Golden Nugget, as well as a downtown chef and my favorite guys, Corey and Craig Nyman, who are very involved in the Las Vegas hospitality scene. If you haven't heard that show, check it out at novacancynews.com. It's up there. Just click on the podcast page and check it out. So, Tim, a lot of stuff is going on in Vegas right now, which is kind of why I'm very excited to kind of make this a separate standalone kind of a show. So thanks for being on here. The first thing that's coming up to me and my mind is, wow, it looks like these sexual harassment allegations are moving out of the food and beverage community into the proper hospitality community now. What are you making of what's going on with Steve Wynn these days?
I don't know what to make of it. This big story broke in the Wall Street Journal a few days ago, about a week ago. I can't even keep track anymore. A little bit over a week ago, around a week ago. And yeah, obviously there's I'm conflicted about this because, as with any of these things, there are multiple sides, and the whole due process issue and all that. But it's not looking good when the Wall Street Journal interviewed 150 people, and there were certainly some themes as far as things that Mr. Wynn is accused of. And now the gaming regulators in Massachusetts are taking a look at him. The Nevada gaming people are taking a look at him. His own board is investigating. I don't know how this is all going to shake out. It's a different situation than you would have at most companies because he is the brand. He is so closely associated with those resorts. His name is on the top of the building. Everybody knows who he is.
Yeah.
I don't know how they handle this. It's going to be really interesting to see it play out.
It is going to be interesting to see how it plays out. As a matter of fact, I just got a press release this morning from Higgins, Berman, Sobel, and Shapiro, a group of people you probably don't want not on your side. They are investigating possible securities law violations related to the reported sexual misconduct on part of the company's CEO and chairman. So they're asking if you purchased Wynn Securities between November 1st and January 29th of this year and suffered losses, you should call them. So that, to me, is a very ominous point of view for them to be taking. Because it looks like what they're doing is they're saying, hey, if you lost money here, we're going to sue the company because the stock tanked because of his personal behavior.
Wow.
Right.
Wow. That's the thing. The board is certainly, they're going to be watching that stock price, which dipped for a couple days and then it went back up a little bit. And that certainly is a factor. And, lost convention business, things like that are certainly going to have an impact on the board's view of things. I don't know. And then, let's say something, if he could conceivably end up losing his gaming license if the state wanted to go that way. Again, how do you reconcile that? The guy's name is on the building, and I don't know.
I think now I could be completely wrong here, so everybody feel free to flog me if you want. But the way I'm seeing it, I'm seeing more and more as these allegations continue to take over in a lot of ways. If you look at what's happened in the food and beverage industry, I've had a lot of conversations with my friends and behind the scenes in that business. It seems that people are able to separate the individual from the business itself. I posed the question when the allegations against Mario Batali came out, would you eat at his restaurants any longer? And overwhelmingly, people are like, yeah, it's just not fair to the folks that are earning a living in that company. Should we hold everybody responsible? Should we punish every single person who works in that organization? Or maybe we should rally and support those people. So I'm thinking we're in a society now where there's a short-term hit and then everybody kind of moves on and we'll see business as usual. I mean, you think I've got some merit to that statement, or you see it differently?
Could very well be. The one interesting thing, and I was in Las Vegas right before you were. I was there at the end of December, and I did happen to notice when I was walking through Venetian and Palazzo that Mario Batali's name has been removed from the signs for his own restaurants.
It wasn't removed as much as black tape was put over his names, which is hysterical to look at.
Yeah, the sign for, I think it was B&B Ristorante, it only listed one of the B's.
Yes.
So.
As a matter of fact, I know from inside sources that outlet is going to be reconcepted. But when you see that it gets reconcepted, understand that was the plan before the allegations of Batali came out. So there will be a flip, but maybe not for the reason why people think is going to happen. And I also understand Joe Bastianich is not being looked on very favorably now for other reasons as well. So very complicated situation for the folks at Venetian Palazzo. I feel badly for them.
Well, that's another issue you mentioned. So one of the things that we could see from the Wynn allegations could be a domino effect as far as other executives who may have known or been involved, if these allegations are true. And then there's been rumblings about some of the other resort companies in Las Vegas and their executives. So
right.
This one article and these allegations might not be the end of it. And certainly you've seen that in the restaurant industry where it's been pretty widespread. So
right. Now, I'm going to take a guess that a few of your listeners are going to be listening to what you have to say today. So I happen to be a guy that's been in the hospitality end of the business for 20 plus years now. I cover the hotel industry and all of that. And I'm very well aware that there's a lot of cultural similarities in the hospitality industry as there is in the food and beverage business. And I'm honestly quite surprised that we haven't seen a lot more people being taken down by allegations on the hotel side of the business and the casino side of the business. I'm wondering if this is going to be the first of many dominoes to fall on the hotel side of the world.
It's certainly starting to sound like that, although, we haven't, it's only been a week, so we don't know, but it does sound like there might be, from what I've been hearing, some other things coming. So
it's kind of scary and depressing at the same time.
Well, it bums me out like you wouldn't believe, because Las Vegas, the whole thing about that city for me is it's always been my escape from reality. It's my happy place. It's where I escape the news in the world.
Yep.
I don't have to deal with politics. And now that's, it's getting cloudy. We had it first with the tragedy on October 1st with the shootings, and now with this, it's hard to separate the news that I'm trying to avoid, when I'm dealing with Las Vegas stuff, and my escape place. So
yeah,
it's quite a bummer, quite honestly.
Oh yeah.
Obviously not as much of a bummer for the people who are involved in these things, but I'd rather not have to think about any of these things or deal with any of these topics. I'd rather be talking about some great new, hotel that's being built or something.
Yeah, I agree with you, Tim. It's really, it's just so frustrating for me to have to deal with that, because I just want to enjoy myself. So let's talk about some positive stuff. But first, we got to talk about Lucky Dragon, which is not so positive. Originally, I heard that they were going to reconcept everything and reopen a year. Now my sources are telling me that property is just DOA. There's just no way it's ever going to come back in any form whatsoever. Have you heard that? What are you thinking about Lucky Dragon?
It's interesting to see what happened, because that was a property that it opened roughly a year ago, and their whole focus was, let's really focus on one niche market, which is the Asian gamblers. Their signage was in Chinese. Their selection of table games was based heavily on Asian gamblers. They didn't have a craps table. It was more focused on things like baccarat, and it didn't work. They didn't capture enough of that market. They didn't capture the locals that they had hoped to bring in. And as far as it making a comeback, I don't know. The latest I've heard is that there's it's on the foreclosure auction block in about a week or so.
Wow.
I believe the hotel is still open despite the casino and restaurants closing.
Yes, but I hear that's going to close too.
Yeah, there's no way that's going to, I can't see that rumbling along without anything else. As far as somebody snapping it up and changing themes on it, I don't know. For a while, there was some speculation. This was before it even closed. There was some speculation that it might be a target for Virgin Hotels, because there was a report not long ago that they were interested and in negotiations for a Las Vegas hotel and casino. But now it's come out through multiple reports that they're close to snapping up Hard Rock. So.
Wow.
So Lucky Dragon's not in the picture for Richard Branson, apparently.
Wow, that would be a real surprise to me, considering if you look at Hard Rock, the momentum the brand has had behind it. And again, for folks that are more of the casino fans and not the hotel fans, on the hotel side of the business, they've recently introduced this new mid-scale concept brand called Reverb. That they're going to be building throughout the country when they get franchise owner partners. They're in the middle of that process now, but they're opening amazing new properties all over. And I find that the company, since it got reunited, because there used to be a West Coast, the West Coast company operated Warner, used to operate all the hotels, and then you had, of course, the Indian group that operated the rest of it. Now it's all been reunited, and they've got such great product behind them and momentum. I'm surprised to hear that the Vegas property could be in danger.
So no, I think the Vegas property was the one outlier that was not owned by that same group. Mm-hmm. So I think I was expecting that to be bought out by the owner of the rest of the Hard Rock properties. Right. But yeah, it sounds like Branson, the story is that employees have been told, if they're asked about it, they don't have to deny it. So Um, if he were to buy it, it would be rebranded by the end of 2019, is what I believe the Review Journal was saying.
All right. Well, I'm gonna give some of my friends over to Virgin a call, and if you want to learn more about Virgin, of course, I got a podcast focused on Virgin Hotels where I spoke to the CEO about a year ago. So check out that podcast as well. It's really an amazing company and doing really cool things. But back to Hard Rock. I don't know if you know this, Tim, that the guy that was in charge of global development for Hard Rock Hotels and Resorts and was signing a major deal every single month, essentially, around the world, has moved over to Caesars back in the fall, and now he's running development for them, which I think is a very interesting thing.
Oh, that is interesting. I think it was before the economy tanked. There was some movement, or at least some rumblings, that Caesars was interested in franchising its brand, the Caesars Palace brand, at least,
Yep.
or the Caesars brand. And then, things changed, so it hasn't really happened. But
yeah, that's gonna happen. I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
that's gonna happen. I mean, of course, I can't say anything definitively. I feel like I have to do one of those forward-looking statement denials in every single financial press release. But Marco Rocca, the gentleman that I'm talking about, is a really terrific, magnetic personality. If anyone is going to be able to roll out that brand, it's going to be him. And it's going to be interesting to see between Caesars and MGM, the types of products that they bring around the world that don't necessarily have that casino component to it. And will the brands work without that casino component to it? Have you thought about any of that before?
a little bit, obviously, Caesars is a very well-known brand, but sorry about my dog there.
That's all right.
The the brand is associated, at least to this point,
Right.
with casino resorts. So I don't know how that works as a separate standalone.
Right. Well, I think the dog is very confident that they're going to be great products. I mean, he's so excited about it.
Oh, he likes to chime in about everything.
Yeah.
I'll try to get him to shut up here.
That's all right. So while you try to quiet him down, let me tee up the next part of the discussion that I want to have. Construction seems, from what I understand, is going to be really full bore ahead for Resorts World in Las Vegas. By spring, I'm told that it's going to be really, really going big time. Anything that you've heard on Resorts World? Am I right on, or do you think I'm just fooling myself because it's been so long they've been promising this?
Oh, it's been such a slow process, but yeah, that's what I'm hearing too. They finally have some cranes up. I think 4 or 5 of them are on site now.
Right.
And yeah, by spring, I guess there's supposed to be quite a bit of work being done. Now, we've heard this before from Resorts World. There's been a timeline that's been pushed back again and again. It's like, well, by the end of the year, you're going to see work, and then it hasn't really happened much beyond some infrastructure and a parking garage.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like this time they're ready to push forward with it. So I'm very hopeful, because I think obviously the North Strip needs something like that. They need some new development. And seeing the cranes up alone made me happy in December.
Yeah, I drove by too, and I was actually suspicious because I wasn't sure if they were recently placed there or they've been there for a while and I had just forgotten about it. But I know I'm excited. And you talk about those delays. That property was originally supposed to be open by now at this point, right?
Yeah, I think so. It's been a long, slow process, but
Yeah.
They haven't shut things down. They haven't pulled back. They keep saying it's coming, and now it seems like they're finally taking some pretty concrete actions to make me optimistic.
For sure. And another property I'm super duper optimistic about, and I can't believe this is coming out of my mouth right now, Tim, but it looks like the property formerly known as Fontainebleau, now known as Project Blue, is actually happening, being run by CEO John Unwin, who, for those listening don't know this, was the one behind the opening of Cosmopolitan. That excites me a lot, Tim.
That excites me as well, and I've been a skeptic about Fontainebleau ever opening it, in any condition. I thought somebody's going to buy it, and there's still so much money to be put into it to finish it that it might end up being eventually torn down, and something else would end up being constructed there because it is such a behemoth. But yeah, I've heard the same thing about Unwin and from a couple sources now, and that's really encouraging because I'm a big Cosmopolitan fan.
Yeah, it's really terrific, and I hope that they do things like bring back, I'm forgetting the name of it now because it's been a while, but I know you used to go and you get the cocktails a lot when they had great up and coming live bands. Book and Stage? Was that what it was?
Yeah,
Book and Stage?
yeah. Book and Stage was one of my favorite bars, and it was such a unique concept that they had, at least for this era, that they would have a bar that it was kind of a V-shaped bar, and they had a stage, an elevated stage behind the bar, and they brought in some up and coming performers that have since gone on to be hit makers. It was really a cool thing for about, I don't know, a year or two when they first opened, but then they ended up they slowed down on the band bookings, and then they quit using it altogether, and then they completely wiped the bar out and put in a lounge. So I loved that though. It was really neat to sit there and see some bands that now are, they're
I saw Foster the People there when nobody knew who they were, for example. And a couple of other. Who did you see?
I saw a performer, ZZ Ward, and similar thing. She, now she tours clubs and theaters. She does a lot of the festivals. I've seen her on Jimmy Kimmel and some of the talk shows. So yeah, it's a neat thing. And obviously you have to have somebody in there who's a good talent booker who knows which bands are going to be something a year later.
Yeah.
And they did it. They had somebody in there who was doing a great job pulling those bands in. I'd love to see something like that. And it was right on the casino floor, which was incredible.
I loved it. It's so nice to have a bar in a casino with live music that's not just cover songs. I'm getting so tired of hearing the same cover songs over and over. Now, I recommend John Unwin for Project Blue. Get my buddy Craig Nyman in there to book the bands. He books all the Life is Beautiful festival musical acts, and he's done a great job with that. And I'd love to see Craig. Get another gig with booking music on a regular basis. That guy knows everything about the music scene. He always turns me on to bands that, like, a year later, everybody knows. It's absolutely amazing.
That's what they had there, and that's what you need for something like that. It would be fantastic to see another shot at that.
For sure. All right, so more new projects seem to be coming to Vegas. When I was there the week of January 8th, and I highly recommend nobody go to CES. I mean, you go to Vegas during CES. That was a huge problem for me, Tim. My buddy is an executive, couldn't get me a room at their main property on the Strip, so I had to stay like 10 miles off the Strip in a hotel that I hope is going to be refurbished soon. I'll just put it that way. So, that was difficult. But I had a chance to go downtown. When I did that interview over at the Golden Nugget, I noticed that across the street, there's a massive demolition happening for the new casino that Derek of the D is going to be opening over there. And I did not realize the extent of it. I had no idea that they were going to be leveling everything and rebuilding it. I thought they were just going to repurpose the existing structure, but no, complete demolition, giant hotel towers and everything.
Yeah, when he first purchased that, for a while it sounded like he might keep part of it, keep one of the hotel towers and get rid of the older one and do some. And I guess ultimately decided, you know what, it's going to be easier if we just take it to the ground, start over. It'll be fun to see what he comes up with, because his other projects, Golden Gate and the D, have been using and renovating existing properties. And obviously whenever you do that, there are certainly issues because you're limited as far as what the room footprint is and all kinds of other things.
Yeah.
Older infrastructure. To see what he can do when he's starting a building from the ground up and can make it into whatever he wants, it'll be really fun to see what he ends up doing. He's been very tight-lipped about it. I have no idea what he's planning, despite trying to pry it out of him at every opportunity.
Yeah.
But it'll be really fun to see a new downtown property that's built fresh rather than on an existing tower for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, it's going to be super exciting to see that product. And of course, I got a podcast with Derek Stevens. If you want to hear that show, I believe I did that one last May. Go check it out at novacancynews.com and click on the podcast page. That was a fun conversation. Derek is such an interesting dude, and how he's kind of like become the personality of downtown Las Vegas is pretty neat to me.
Yeah, he's doing a lot of really cool things, and it's a little bit of a throwback in that you can actually walk into his casino and meet the owner standing there at the end of the bar. You don't get a lot of that in Las Vegas, downtown or on the Strip. So he's always he's always interested to meet his customers and to hear what they have to say and to shake their hands and sometimes buy them a drink. And it's a really, really fun thing to see.
Yeah, it sure is. Okay, so any other Las Vegas gossip that you've been hearing? Anything that's on top of your mind in terms of what's new, what's different, what's happening?
No, the other thing, kind of a little bit of a step back to where we started with Wynn, just before the Wynn allegations came down.
Oh, we didn't even talk about that stuff.
Yeah, I know. He announced, again, North Strip, that he was going to build what would be his fourth Las Vegas Strip hotel as part of his current Wynn Las Vegas complex across the street where New Frontier used to be. And then that's kind of been lost here since the allegations came down. That'll be, everybody thought when he bought that land that he was going to probably sit on it for a while.
I mean, that's what my people were telling me, Tim, when I was down there, and I was talking to all these executives from the casinos. They were all like, "This is a defensive move with Resorts World coming and all of that." He wanted to make sure that no one built something big across the street, and now he's going ahead and he's going to build something across the street, which is amazing to me, considering he's already doing that whole 1,500 room addition over at the Wynn complex.
Exactly. He's got his third hotel planned as part of the golf course renovations and the putting in the big crystal lagoon and all the water features.
Yep.
And now, another 2,000 to 3,000 rooms across the street in a fourth hotel with all of the things you would expect from a Las Vegas resort, convention space and a casino and restaurants and all that. So, and he said he wants to fast track it since he's very pro Vegas right now.
Yeah, I guess it makes a lot of sense. Hopefully, they'll be able to get through this, and that project will still go forward. Of course, right now I feel like everything is up in the air with what's going to happen. But
I do as well.
I'm pretty sure eventually stuff will all get done, regardless of whether Mr. Wynn is or is not part of the organization at some point in the future.
Yeah, it would be really great to see between Resorts World and a new, couple Wynn hotels going up. It would be great to see things progressing down there. It's been way too long that we've had nothing but dirt lots on the north end.
Yeah, and I do want to say I'm a big fan of what the company Wynn has done. I've been dying to get Roger Thomas, their head designer, on my design podcast because they've done such amazing things. They always seem to push the design dialogue into a new and exciting and interesting direction that doesn't seem to get stale very quickly, unlike some other hotels that you see.
Well, yeah, even the older places that Steve Wynn has been involved in the past, the MGM properties, and even to an extent the Golden Nugget downtown, the design choices they make really last a long time. They come up with things that are just classy and interesting, and it's always fun to see what they do with a new place.
Yeah. What do you think overall in the city? We're finally, I think, moving away from the reliance on clubs featuring EDM to smaller, more intimate places that seem to be squarely focused on cocktail culture. I suspect that's something that you like.
I do. I'm not a fan of the nightclub scene at all. It's just not my thing. And I do like. I'd much prefer to have a nice, comfortable lounge with a really great cocktail menu, somewhere where I can speak to someone and hear at least half of what they're saying. So yeah, we are seeing a lot more of that, and that's a good development. Yeah, in my eyes,
it sure is. And I'm looking up the name of it right now. So there's a brand new cocktail lounge at the Palazzo that I had a tour of that was absolutely spectacular.
Probably the Dorsey.
Yes, the Dorsey. Yes, absolutely gorgeous property in there, designed just really to the nines. And for the listeners of the show, I want you all to know they have a secret menu in there, so you should ask about that. I mean, you're not going to get cheese toppings on your fries like in In-N-Out, but you're going to have some great cocktails that nobody knows about. I think it's focused on Moscow mules and mint juleps and stuff like that. But don't quote me on that last part.
One of the I'm not sure if she is their lead if in developing their cocktail program, but there's a woman who works there behind the bar named June who has been involved in a lot of different really great cocktail programs throughout the city. It seems like she ends up moving somewhere else every 6 months because she's in high demand. But she opened the Laundry Room, which is a speakeasy downtown.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she's just fantastic. So when I heard that she was at the Dorsey, I'm like, well, I got to add that to the list because she always comes up with interesting and fun things.
Yes. Well, this menu of drinks was created by Sam Ross. He earned his street cred at Attaboy and Milk and Honey, two major places. But I'm sure she adds her influence and elements to it. And, making these cocktails are not an easy thing to do. So you've got to have someone who's a real pro in order to create the right experience for your guests.
Absolutely.
All right. So any other gossip and stuff that you want to talk about before we go on to the next part of our
no,
segment?
those are probably, we talk about it. It's nice to be talking about some development issues and some hotel things. For a long time it was like, well, we've got a new show and we've got they're doing some room upgrades, but it's nice that we're getting into, it seems like, another development phase where we're going to have some new entire resorts to discuss, which is very exciting for those of us who are obsessive about watching this. City. It
sure is. One other trend, actually, now that we're talking, you just you got me going here. I love the idea that we're seeing more and more quote unquote residencies happening with famous musical artists. I love going to Vegas and seeing bands that really excite me, much more so than seeing another Cirque du Soleil show.
I'm the same way. I'm a big music fan, so I love seeing, and it's kind of spanning the generations now. For a long time, Vegas has always been associated with older acts that are maybe toward the end of their career, a little bit later on, and now it's starting to skew a little bit younger, especially when you look at what they're doing over at the new Park Theater.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they've got Bruno Mars and they've got Lady Gaga who's starting in December. That's going to be a huge deal. And she's doing something, I think it's like 70 shows over 2 years or something like that. So that's a pretty good run.
That's going to be great.
Yeah. So it's nice to see some people coming in that are still making hits and not necessarily on the downside of their career. But you know what? It's great. Even if you're a little bit older, like I'm in my mid 40s and I like some of those bands that might not be getting airplay anymore, but they're still good live performers. To get to see them in that environment, totally. Maybe in a little bit smaller place and doing something special, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. When I was in Vegas last time, I'm also in my mid 40s, so we're kind of in the same kind of musical universe. I still haven't seen Santana down there, and he's been playing there for like 8 or 9 years now, I think.
Yeah, the thing that's funny to me about Santana, a lot of the times with these residencies, they used to announce, they're going to be here for 3 years or 4 years or however long they've signed for. Mm-hmm. The thing I've noticed with Santana is that with him, and I have no idea how long his contract is for, but they just announce it in 6 months chunks. I get a press release every few months going, "Hey, Santana's coming back." Yeah. So yeah, he's been there. It might be going on 10 years. It's been a long time.
That makes sense to me, Tim, because you want to create that sense of urgency to get people to come. If someone's going to just be there forever, then, I'll get to it when I get to it. Billy Idol plays a lot of shows in Vegas for people that like him. I think that's a lot of fun. But for me, I always check to see what's happening at Brooklyn Bowl, Las Vegas. I think it's my favorite music venue in the entire city.
I have not made it to a show there yet. I've eaten there and I've wandered through and checked out the concert facilities and stuff, but I've not yet seen a show. I've heard wonderful things about it.
It is the best. I mean, if anyone is going to Vegas, check to see if there's a band that you like over there. It's fantastic. I had a chance to see Trey Anastasio band earlier this year there. I think that was back in October. Yeah, just before Halloween. So that was a super lot of fun. He's the lead singer of Fish, if anyone's paying attention. So that was a great time. And anytime I go, I just have such an awesome time. It's quick and easy to get a drink. The sound system is amazing. No matter where you stand, you've got a great view. And again, the sound is perfect. And then they got this great outside area. You could go out and get some fresh air and stuff like that.
Yeah, the location there can't be beat too. It's like It's center strip. It's easy to get in and out of. Before and after a show, it's really a great addition to center strip.
Yep. Okay. So I want to talk to you a little bit today. I mean, really, I think we're hitting our groove right now. I want to talk to you about surviving the actual Las Vegas trip. I've been going to Vegas for couple of decades. I think I've logged about 80 trips. I wouldn't be surprised if you've been there as many times or maybe more than me. And you've probably figured out a thing or two on how to maximize the fun while minimizing the bodily harm.
It took a while. I'm about the same. I think I'm somewhere in the 70s for a number of times. I've been there over 20 years. It took a while to figure it out because when I started going, I was in my 20s, and it's all like, all right, let's go. It's Las Vegas. You have to throw every bit of energy you have into it. And over time, you learn, you know what? It's okay if I get a little bit of sleep while I'm here.
Right.
Pacing is huge. Don't try to do everything at once. In fact, don't even try to do everything. We usually go into any trip with a list of stuff that we want to do, and we kind of categorize it by what sort of priority it is. The things we really, really want to do, we'll try to hammer those out. And then the lower things, you know what, if we don't get to these, it's okay. We'll get them next time. There's so much going on, so much to see, so much to do. You've got to really pace yourself, or else you can do some serious damage.
Oh yeah, you absolutely can. And I don't know if I'm envious or feel sorry for those kids in the mid-20s that are drinking all day at the day clubs, and then somehow they roll it right over into playing some table games, and then go straight into going back to the nightclubs at night. I don't know. I don't think I ever had that much energy in my life.
Yeah, there was a time where I skewed closer to that than I do. I certainly do now.
Right.
And I'm the same way. It's like, do I wish that I could do that, or I don't know. I'm pretty happy with taking things a little slower, but really enjoying my time when I'm there, rather than trying to pack everything into 2 days. And I'm also I tend to go for 4 or 5 nights most trips. And a lot of times, if you go for just 2 days, then I guess the impulse would be there to get as much out of that 48 hours that you can. I'd rather pace myself a little bit and take it a little bit slower pace.
Right. Now, for me, I'm all about that nap. So I'm very rigid about that. If I happen to be there for fun, which is pretty much never. Sometimes I'll be able to have a day at the end. But in all those times, Tim, I've been to Vegas, I've never been there for a purely social trip. It's always been work, and then trying to shoehorn in the fun. But what I do like to do is, you go out late. You stay out to what anywhere else would be midnight, 1 o'clock, but in Vegas somehow it winds up being 4 or 5 a.m. I don't know how that happens. It's really strange. It's like it's only 8 o'clock, and then oh my God, it's 4 a.m. What happened? So I like to get in. You get in 4 or 5 a.m. whatever it might be. Then you sleep a little bit. I like to get up, go have some chicken and waffles over at Hash House, a Go-Go or something like that, then head back to my room and take a good 3-hour nap before trying to have another evening out on the town.
Oh yeah, I've got no problem with taking a nap in the middle of the day. But you're right. You mentioned getting up and having a good, in your case, chicken and waffles or something. That's one of the things too. When sometimes people get so focused on if they're into gambling, they're so locked in the casino they forget to eat.
Oh yeah, it's happened to me.
And then you're consuming alcohol on top of it. That's a recipe for disaster. It's always good to maybe grab, if you've been drinking all day, grab a meal before you head back to the room. Slow things down a little bit, because if you fall asleep after you've been drinking all day without any sort of food in your stomach, you're going to wake up in a world of hurt.
Oh, yeah, you certainly are. And
not that I'm speaking from experience or anything.
No way. You've seen others, and you've made sure you don't make the same foolish mistakes.
Let's
right?
say that. Yeah.
Now, every year, with unfortunately the exception of this past one, I go to December to attend a conference that takes place at the Hard Rock, and for like the last 4 or 5 years, we wound up just getting stuck at the center bar socializing with people because it's an industry conference. I know a lot of people in Vegas. Everyone would kind of come and hang out there. So we'd sit down at 2, 3 o'clock, and then before you know it, it's 12, 1 a.m., and we haven't left for a restaurant. But fortunately, I have a little pizza place over there, so we usually go over and we grab some slices because we're like, if we don't eat now, we're going to be in big trouble, and just bring them back and enjoy that. So please don't forget to eat, even if it's pizza. And if you're going to have pizza, make sure if you're a Cosmo, go get some of that New York-style secret pizza, which I absolutely love.
I'm a fan of that as well. I've done that many times late at night before turning in.
Yeah, and I'm so glad they finally put an In-N-Out on the Strip, which is conveniently located at the Link, where also the Brooklyn Bowl is located. So that's exciting to me as an East Coast cat, getting to have some of that In-N-Out burger.
I have a whole thing about In-N-Out. We don't have it here in the Twin Cities either, and I've had it a couple times in Vegas, and it's fine. I don't buy into the hype.
Wow,
I know I'm one of the few. People love In-N-Out, and I'm like, it's fine.
Right.
I don't. It's not a must do every time I'm on the West Coast, though.
Wow. Well, all right. Well, I'd like to thank you for being on the show. Goodbye.
I get that a lot. That a lot. People have an opinion.
Yeah, I like it a lot. It's funny they put a White Castle, on the Strip as well. And as a New Yorker, we got those all over the place. So never even occurs for me to go to that one. But the lines out there could be crazy too.
Yeah, those places that open in Las Vegas that don't have nationwide coverage do very well. And there are 2 White Castles now. The one center strip that you mentioned, there's one downtown on Fremont Street now as well. And they seem to be doing very, very well. It's I'm not a huge White Castle guy either, but
Right.
It's the kind of thing that you generally crave when you are drunk. So Las Vegas seems to be the perfect place for a couple of those locations.
Yeah. All right. So now that you've had plenty of alcohol and you've had a little bit of food, I also want to urge people, drink a lot of water when you're in Vegas. Guys, you're in the desert. And I think people forget that, especially you're getting dehydrated on the plane, and then you continue that state throughout the city. Just try to drink as much water as possible. I happen to like to get my water by having Maker's Mark and ginger ale. I find that keeps me hydrated and the right amount of tipsy at the same time.
Yeah, that is a good tip, especially, in the summer when it's super hot, people tend to realize, oh yeah, it's really hot, I need to be drinking water. When it's not 115 degrees, you tend to forget about it a little bit more. Mm-hmm. But it's like you said, it's still the desert, and even if you're there in the winter, it's very, very dry, and it's a good thing to do to continue to try to get something other than straight vodka into your system once in a while.
Yeah. So, do you ever go anywhere off strip, or and by off strip I don't mean downtown. I mean just like not the usual places.
Las Vegas is the one city where I am an unapologetic tourist. I like to stick mainly to the Strip and to downtown, to Fremont Street. I've been to certainly some of the outlying casinos like Red Rock and Green Valley Ranch and some of those, and it's like, oh, they're fine, but I'm not compelled. There's not enough there that is different than what I'm going to get on the Strip, where I want to dedicate my limited time in the city to going there. So I don't spend a lot of time off Strip.
Yeah, when my buddies and I are feeling a little crooked late at night, we like to go to the Double Down. Have you ever been over there?
I have been to Double Down a couple times. Now that is one place that I would say, yeah, that's worth. If you like dive bars, that's a must. That is a must stop.
Right.
That place is great. I haven't been there in a long time, but yeah. In fact, some of those mornings that I discussed earlier where you don't get enough food,
right,
and you don't necessarily feel, some of those are double down related.
Right. And if you want to quadruple down, now that there's legal cannabis in Nevada, right next door to the Double Down is a store for those kind of purchases as well. So if you want to be bad, you could be really super duper bad, all in one strip mall.
It's true. The cannabis dispensaries are popping up all over the place now. They don't have them right within the tourist corridor of Las Vegas Strip, but if you cross Sahara Boulevard, there's one right there. There's a couple right there. It doesn't take much effort to find one.
No, there's a lot of advertisements going on. They got those trucks that are billboards that just drive up and down the Strip now.
Yep.
with that as well. Any other tips that you have on maximizing your Vegas experience? How about getting those comp drinks in places? What's going on in terms of you getting comp drinks at MGM because those tickets anywhere else and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I'm hoping that downtown Golden Nugget has implemented the drink. I don't remember if they have the light. I think they have the light system. Caesars has a light system where behind the bar, you can't see it, but on the back of your video poker machine, there's a series of lights that tells the bartender whether or not you have gambled enough to get free drinks.
Interesting.
Some of the other places like Cosmopolitan and the MGM Resorts properties, they have a ticket system where every so often a ticket will print out. They give you your first drink, but then after that, you need to have a voucher in order to get one. Uh, at first at Cosmo, when they implemented that, they seemed to spit out at a fairly rapid rate, and now they've slowed that down a little bit. I'm not loving it. I'd rather have a bartender who has the ability to top off my drink whenever he happens to walk by, and doesn't have to, for their sake and for my sake, doesn't have to be a slave to that kind of system. I've even heard Downtown Grand they don't have a formal voucher or light system.
Sorry, they don't have customers either. So,
well, that's the thing. Now, this is really stupid. They've instructed their bartenders that they can only it's every 20 minutes. So now the bartenders are expected to keep an eye on the time that somebody ordered or check the receipt that's in front of them to make sure it's been 20 minutes. That's just nonsense. It puts all you're going to do is anger your customers, and it's going to lower tips for the bartenders. It's just not a good practice.
Mm-hmm.
So, at least with the voucher system, it's like, okay, I get it. It comes out at a certain pace, and I get why they're doing this. They're trying to avoid people who are putting in $1 and sitting there playing 1 credit for as long as they can. And I get it. But it doesn't necessarily leave a great taste in your mouth when you're when you feel like you're being nickel and dime, despite the fact that you're gambling.
Yeah, I can't stand the nickel and diming that's happening up and down the strip these days. But that is probably for another show where we can complain heartily about us paying for parking because we really want a better parking experience.
Nothing is more important than a better parking experience.
Right? I don't know how many times I said, Vegas would be perfect if only the parking experience was better. But any other tips that you might have on how to maximize that Vegas experience, Tim?
I think just taking it at a reasonable pace and not killing yourself all in the first day. Because really what happens then, if you go full bore and you overdo it, thinking I'm trying to get the most out of my limited time here, inevitably you end up losing a day or at least half a day because you feel so lousy the next morning that you can't get out of bed. So it's better to pace yourself and take it a little easier and really make sure to enjoy your full trip.
And remember that pacing yourself starts on the flight out there. I don't know how many times I've seen people, let's just say, overly exuberant about the experience they're going to have. And by the time they land, they just need to be taken to the hospital,
Yeah, I've done that. Not the hospital part of it.
Go back to the room and pass out.
Yeah, I've overdone it on the flight a couple times too.
Too funny. And the other big lesson I have, do yourself a favor and never purchase a drink that you need to strap around your neck. That's just embarrassing for everybody involved.
Yeah, there are no winners there.
Excellent. Anything else you want to say before we start getting into some shameless plugs for you?
No, I think we covered some pretty good ground today.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I love having you on the show. We got to do it more than once a year. So
anytime. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, my pleasure. All right, so some shameless plugs. How can people find you, Mr. Tim Dressen?
Yes, the podcast is at 5hundybymidnight.com, or if you do a search for 500 or Vegas podcast, you'll probably find us fairly easily. There's a lot of Vegas podcasts right now. We've been out there for a long time, so it's pretty easy to find. I'm on Twitter. My name on there is 500, and you can search for the Facebook group, just 500, and it'll probably come up as well. So,
excellent.
Always love to have new people listening and jumping into the conversation.
Yeah, and be sure to drop us a line and talk about what your favorite Vegas experiences are. Again, it's so much fun having you on this show, Tim. And now it's time for me to say goodbye to our audience, but don't go anywhere when I say goodbye here, Tim. We'll talk after I get offline here. So thank you all for listening, and make sure you download the No Vacancy Podcast. You can find us wherever you download your podcast and subscribe to us. Check out the back catalog. All these great Vegas shows that I mentioned, you want to hear for yourself. And again, I will be back next week. That is, unless I decide to go to Vegas and try to act like a 20-year-old. Then I'm pretty much a goner. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back next time.